All right, welcome back. We've got some breaking news on our watch. We're just learning that Shepherd Bushiri has handed himself over to police in Malawi. I want to bring in our foreign editor, SABC News foreign editor, Sophie Mokwena, on the latest. Sophie, what are you learning?
Well, of course, there are reports that he has handed himself to the police this morning because last night the Malawian police service went to his house or where he is staying currently and they couldn't find him. And I think later he realized that there is just no way to go now. Because remember, when South Africa got that warrant of arrest, that meant that Interpol could trigger its red alert. Therefore, if he is at any airport, this is going to show, or at any border, and therefore it will be difficult to cross unless he uses false information, and perhaps it's a small border post where they don't have sophisticated facilities or technology to be able to look at the person, the face, and also the fingerprints and link it to the travel document or documents you are using to cross. It might have been possible perhaps to have crossed the border in South Africa, as we are now told, by the bridge with the documents that were false clearly, because perhaps there was an inside job, but now it is a problem. Even those who were conniving with him in South Africa, because truth be told, there are people who must account, there are officials who must be arrested in South Africa, but also in the police service, who have also worked with Bushiri. That is why he continued to do whatever he was doing in the country, because he knew he was giving people money. And therefore, this is time for those people also to be exposed. And he realized that there is nowhere to go. And I think the best option was to arrest him, because that warrant of arrest compels that country, the host of Bushiri, to ensure that they arrest him, even if they don't hand him over to South Africa, but he must be in the hands of the police. He must be in the police cell, in a country where he is, until that country is satisfied that all laws have been followed, either to deport him or to the extradition to kick in, to send him back, or perhaps to take a decision that we're not going to send him back, we will try him in our country, because he also broke the law in Malawi by crossing into Malawi without proper documents, because we know the so-called proper documents are in the hands of the police here in South Africa after he was granted bail.
Right. Sophie, let's understand the process. I want to follow up on what you just said with regards to what happens next. He hands himself over to police in Malawi. What's the options now? Do our South African police go and fetch him, or does Malawi police escort him back to South Africa? What's your understanding with regards to this process?
Well, of course, if there's finally an agreement and the laws of Malawi have been implemented to the latter, you know they must follow their own laws, that side, in terms of how they deal with such cases. Being signatories to the SADC protocol doesn't mean that Malawi can't implement its own laws or follow its own laws in terms of issues such as these ones, or the request to extradite its citizens. And therefore, I think now it's going to be that long process. If there are no long processes in that country or cumbersome process in that country, clearly some officials, some hawks on the police service must go to Malawi to fetch him. And that's what has happened. We saw last month there was a guy who was in Brazil who killed her partner and fled to Brazil. It is the South African police security cluster officials who went to Brazil, spoke to their counterparts, and at that time, that guy was already in the custody of the police in Brazil, and they handed him over, and then he was brought to South Africa to account. So in this case, I expect the same, that much as Malawi will play a part, but South African officials from the police service and the hawks will have to go there and bring him here. It's not the responsibility of Malawi to bring him here. It is the responsibility of South Africa to bring him here. Malawi can hand him over in Malawi to South Africa, and South Africa must bring him here to account.
You know, I remember a couple of days ago that you, as well as Tsepiso, were in conversation with the communication minister in Malawi. The line wasn't that great, but what we could figure out when talking about whether Malawi will cooperate with South Africa, if a request at that time was put forward, and they were saying that they cannot base their decisions on assumptions, etc., etc. Do you think this relationship now between Malawi and South Africa has taken some strain?
I don't think so. You know, people don't understand that there can be a diplomatic spat. A diplomatic spat and the relations to take a strain takes quite a serious matter that can't be resolved. The fact that President Ramaphosa came out clear to say the Malawian president, Lazarus Chakwera, didn't give Bushiri a leave to Malawi, I'm sure Chakwera is happy because President Ramaphosa stood up and kind of defended his integrity and dignity in the eyes of his peers in the region, in South Africa, in his own country, and also on the continent. Because, I mean, what kind of a head of state who can offer a fugitive a lift? So it was a PR nightmare for Malawi, those allegations. Now, after, clearly, they issued a statement. The president of Malawi was happy. Yes, the foreign affairs minister issued a hard-hitting statement. It was a different case. It spoke to how the president and his entourage, his delegation, was treated at the time when they were supposed to leave South Africa.
Yep.
Taking into consideration that South Africa, from its part, when they had information or allegations that he might be he might be on board that plane, they had to do something, because if he was in that plane, he had left again. Ourselves, Malawians, SADC, Africa, and the world, we're going to blame the security forces in South Africa that why didn't you check? So therefore, it's a very tricky one. But yesterday, I spoke to the Malawian Foreign Affairs Minister. He was now dancing based on the statement. Yes, still saying they maintain, he still maintains his position based on that statement, but refusing to go on camera and be recorded or grant us interview to really confirm this, because it's something to write a hard statement and also saying it on camera or audio, because then it becomes more authentic. And two, there were reports that the Foreign Affairs Minister of Malawi met Bushiri in South Africa when they were in South Africa, because he was here, the Foreign Affairs Minister, accompanying his president. He denied that, let me put it clear, but you could hear the tone. I mean, Blaine, we are journalists. You listen to the tone, you look at the body language, you listen to each and every word uttered. You are able to make a story. You can hear that he might have jumped the gun, but he can't retract publicly because it will create more embarrassment. Because of the record with some of the ministers, they were shocked that he could issue such a statement, and therefore he had to say face. Therefore, the relations might have been affected a bit. It will be corrected. The reality here, you are dealing with crime. And I know people are arguing that Bushiri has got a following, he's popular, he's a diplomat, he gets the presidential treatment. It was a different government. We must always remember, this is a new government under a new leader. It's not Mutharika. This is Chakwera. And therefore, situation might be different. And Chakwera, I spoke to Chakwera on Friday. I asked him about issues of corruption, money laundering, and transnational crime. He was very firm. Even the tone, the word he used, that he will work with SADC member countries to fight any transnational crime. He even indicated that he's going to strengthen the institution that deals with corruption in his own country, him talking about illicit financial flow and money laundering as well, even challenging his peers that when the justice system is dealing with criminals, no head of state, that's his word, should interfere in the judicial process.
And, just following up on that, in terms of this cooperation between Malawi and South Africa, and Malawi being the incoming SADC chair and South Africa the incoming chair of the Defense and Security, one would expect these two countries now to cooperate even closer, isn't it?
Yes, Malawi is going to chair the SADC organization, because currently it's Mozambique, and South Africa, it is going to be the chair of the organ on politics, defense and security. Therefore, these two countries will have to work closely on issues that are related to SADC matters, be it trade, security, development, education, and everything, particularly security. And this speaks to security, the breach of security by Bushiri in both countries. Therefore, they have to demonstrate with this case to all member countries what needs to happen when there are these issues. Yes, there are cases where South Africa was found wanting on issues of cooperation with other countries when there are fugitives in our own country. Even Malawi itself, there's a guy who was buried last week. This guy apparently, he was on the run from Malawi because of the corruption or the crime he committed in Malawi, that amounts to 250 or 30 million. I don't know whether it was a heist or it was fraud and corruption, and he had friends in Zimbabwe. So he was shuttling between Zimbabwe and South Africa. These two countries were hosting this fugitive. Unfortunately, he died in an accident in Zimbabwe. You know what? He was staying in South Africa. He had properties in South Africa. And he was buried here while we were pestering and fighting Malawi as South Africa to hand over Bushiri. We were hosting a fugitive. In fact, we were burying a fugitive. So these are things that, as we go forward as a region, we have to be honest. And these things did happen previously because perhaps the citizens were not so vocal and vigilant. And thanks to the social media, we can express ourselves as ordinary citizens of respective regions, countries, and Africa as a continent in terms of what our leaders are doing that we don't like. And therefore, perhaps he was able to run away from Malawi and continue with whatever he's doing, because maybe he was being hosted by some of the Malawians here. We have many Malawians here in South Africa who are legal, some are illegal. And that's what President Chekwere was talking about on Friday, that things must be done. These people must have proper documents, must have proper permits, must have proper visas, and those who are arrested must be speedily repatriated back to their countries. They mustn't spend 70 days at Lindela, some of them even running away from Lindela or finding a way to escape. Yeah. So I think we have to do things differently as a region and the continent, and the citizens are the final word in terms of what must happen in this region and in our respective countries. They must speak. Look, they must speak out.
This story, this case, no doubt, throws a lot of spotlight on various other issues as well. We heard Home Affairs Minister yesterday, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, talking about the porous borders, and he was saying we believe people who are a flight risk can go through any of our porous borders. That's what he said. So that's a worrying indeed. Sophie, while I have you on the line, I just want to shift focus a bit. Yesterday, very important call. President Cyril Ramaphosa with President-elect of the United States, Joe Biden, the president expressing hopes of a strong partnership between Africa and the United States. What are you hearing with regards to that call?
Well, of course, you know that in every country, post-elections, when it's clear that a candidate has won elections, the country would issue a statement, and they go as far as calling the two leaders to congratulate and just to reach out. And that's what has happened. President Ramaphosa called President Biden, and they spoke and congratulating him, and also perhaps setting a foundation in terms of what will be the priorities for South Africa with America, and perhaps him also talking about his priorities in terms of South Africa, but also on behalf of the continent, because the President Ramaphosa, is currently the chair of the African Union. Yeah. So clearly it wasn't a message South Africa to South Africa per se, but it was also a message on behalf of the continent as currently a leader of the continent. And clearly things will revolve around trade, things will revolve around, or the discussion will revolve around trade, it will revolve around security, because in terms of peacekeeping, America is doing a lot on the continent. On other issues, on health issues, America is doing a lot, even though there are these frosty relations with the WHO, and with Biden making a commitment to rejoin the WHO. I mean, some of the stuff, I guess, that they spoke about, because President Ramaphosa at an international stage on the issue of COVID-19, he's the co-chair of COVAX. COVAX is some sort of a fund that's being collected by all member countries who are members of the WHO to come up with a vaccine that is going to help countries, but also to ensure that you are able to distribute this vaccine equally. And I think he also touched on that. So I think it was that kind of a call. I remember when George Bush, in his final year of term, the second term, after he was elected, we were in Brasilia, in Brazil, with President Mbeki. He went out, stopped the meeting, and had to congratulate Bush. It's those kind of etiquette and a courtesy call to a person who's likely to take over. So it's normal, it's been done, it's not the first time.
The huge spotlight is on this peaceful transition now from the Trump administration to the Biden administration. Biden is expected to assume office on the 20th of January next year. That's when he's going to be sworn in. But Trump, as you know, still hasn't conceded as yet. But Sophie, we thank you very much indeed for your perspective. We know that we lean on you with regards to the latest on this Bushiri case as well. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right, that was foreign editor Sophie Mokoena there. Talking about President Cyril Ramaphosa expressing hopes of a strong partnership between Africa and the United States during a call with President-elect Joe Biden. The two leaders also, discussed ways to strengthen U.S.-Africa relations and overcome the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can see, the statement from the South African presidency says that Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris have identified Africa as a major player in international affairs and in the advancement of multilateralism. Biden is said to have expressed admiration for what a democratic South Africa had been able to achieve. President Ramaphosa, for his part, said he looked forward to a strong partnership at a bilateral level, as well as between United States and Africa. As I said, Biden will assume office on January 20th. Next year. Meanwhile, U.S. President